Okay, hi everyone, welcome back. Last week I did a video with this setup right here that I've really been enjoying with the SP404 Mark II and Loopy Pro running on my iPad and the two connected via USB-C cable. This setup is pretty powerful and it's obviously pretty compact and easy to set up physically, but as I mentioned in my last video, there was one pretty significant downside to using this as like a live looping and beat making workflow. And that was you had to do a little bit of menu diving in the middle of your performance to go from getting your effects into the loops versus using your effects as performance tools to add on top of your loops. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm not explaining this well. Think about it this way. Sometimes I want to record with my effects going into my looper, and sometimes I want my looper to play back through the SP and apply effects as a performance tool. That requires audio to be routed two different ways. And on the SP, the way that you do that is you do a little bit of menu diving. You go in here to utility, go to system, scroll down, yada, yada. So it's not super seamless to go back and forth between recording effects and performing with effects. If that's a little confusing, go back and watch my last video. I feel like maybe I was a little more clear there. But here's the point that I'm trying and failing to get to. There was a comment on my last video from a user, Danjo2714. Shout out to you, Danjo. And they mentioned that there actually is a way to kind of make that process of routing audio back and forth much easier by using buses in Loopy Pro. I hadn't thought of that. I didn't even really know I could do that. And I tried it, and sure enough, it was like super easy and very seamless. And that's the setup that I was using in the intro. And if you watch closely, you can see that I was going from recording my effects in, pressing one button, and then being able to apply the effects as performance tools, which, you know, the only other way that you would be able to do that is if you had a crazy complex like switching system where you could route audio back and forth, or you had two SPs, one for effects going in and one for effects coming out of your looper. So it's just kind of another proof point that this setup is really powerful for live looping and beat making. That's a lot of talking. Here's what you need to know. This template that I built in Loopy Pro to be able to do this, I'm uploading for free on patch storage. So if you don't care how this works and you just want it to use with your SP, go grab it. It's up there for free. But if you're interested in this and want to see how I set this up, I will walk you through it right now. So in order to make this work, setup on the SP is really simple. All you have to do is first go in here and make sure that your USB in is set to line in. Once it's there, we don't have to change it, so no more menu diving. And then the other thing, obviously, is just turn on external source. So make sure external source is on, and you're done with setup for the SP. And now we come over here to Loopy Pro. This setup is a little bit more in depth, but thankfully you only have to do it once, save it as a template, never have to do it again. So I have a brand new project in Loopy Pro. Let me just go ahead and delete some of these loops because I don't need them. And let me walk you through the things that you need to do to make this work. So the first thing is, if you go into your mixer here and go to your input, you can see that our input is set to SP404 Mark II. That happens automatically when you plug in your USB cable. My input channels are 1 and 2, and I'm monitoring everything through the SP. So make sure that monitoring in Loopy Pro is turned off. We do not want to monitor through this. So make sure that's turned off. That's the first step. And then the next step, to make sure that our time-based effects like delay sync to the clock of our looper, go into settings and then synchronization, and make sure that your MIDI clock destination is going to SP404 Mark II. In the intro, I used a little bit of delay on my solo, and you could tell that it was locked to my beat that I was looping because this was turned on. So make sure that's turned on. And then, as I mentioned before in the last video, optional, but swipe up on the first loop and make sure that threshold recording is turned on. It just makes your life a lot easier, so I would highly recommend it. Here it is, turn it on, toggle it on. I actually don't know what the difference is between this check and this toggle. I just do them both. There it is. And then the last thing that I do that's kind of optional is I come in here to settings and I go to MIDI learn. I tap my first loop right there, and now it's listening for events, and I tap this pad. So now this pad is mapped to start this loop. I know I'm moving kind of fast here, but I went over all this in my last video. So this stuff hasn't changed. And if you want more detail on it, look at that last video. But just a demonstration on how this works. I tap, it's waiting for threshold. Loop. And there it is. Okay, so this is how far we got in the last video. And I was just menu diving to change the settings when I wanted to move my effects around. And here's where the cool part is. It does require a little setup, so stick with me. First thing we have to do is we make sure that all of our loops are not routing to our output. No loop should be going to any output. And that might sound weird, but I promise it'll make sense later. To make this a little bit easier on yourself, I would recommend just getting rid of all the color groups except for one. If you use color groups, you can manually map them all, but I just kind of like to make it simple and get rid of them. So now that I only have one color group going to one destination, I come in here and I turn that off. Done. Now my loops are not going anywhere. They're just hanging out right here, and it's waiting for me to tell them where I want them to go. So the next thing we do is we create 2 new buses, right? So tap this plus right here, create 2 new buses, and go ahead and turn those volumes all the way up. And here's where the magic happens. On bus A, you can keep this set to 1 and 2, but on bus B, turn off 1 and 2 and turn on 3 and 4. And what I didn't realize is the way the SP404 Mark II works is there are 4 channels of audio output that you can send to this thing. Channels 1 and 2 will be sent through your effects bus routing. So they will be sent through all of these effects that you put on. Channel 3 and 4 just go straight to the master output. Those bypass all of the effects. So what I'm getting at is if I want to record my effects into my looper, I just solo bus 3 and 4. And if I want to perform with my looper using these effects, I solo bus A with output 1 and 2. I know this is a little complicated, but I promise it is so worth it. So let me show you in practice what that means. So let's say I want to record some stuff. So bus B with output 3 and 4 is soloed. That's what I want. So let's start this. Let's do some drum. I'll put some 303 vinyl sim on there. And that's looping, right? I turn that effect off, and you can see that whatever effects I put on here, they do not affect my loop because I'm recording them into my looper. Let me grab my guitar. And now let's say I want to record my guitar into here and I want to put the crusher on there. By the way, can we all just take a second? Listen to how cool that sounds. Crusher might be my favorite effect to use on guitar. Anyways, loop is playing, crusher is on, and I can just record it in. 2, 3, 4. Done. Now let's say our loop is finished. Obviously it's not, but let's say that it's finished and I want to put performance effects on this. Obviously, that doesn't work. Nothing happens, right? All we need to do is go in here to our buses and solo the other bus. And now I can apply my performance effects. And if I want to add more layers to this, I just solo the other bus again. And to make this even easier, what I did is I added a few buttons that did that function for me in the template that you saw. So I just add 2 buttons here, and then I go into each one, and on press, if you type in bus, you'll see solo, unsolo bus. So the first one is going to solo bus A, done. The second one on press is going to solo bus B, right? So let's move these around, make them a little easier to press, and watch what happens. When I press this, it solos bus A, and when I press this, it solos bus B. So during my performance, I can say, okay, I'm recording, this is selected. All right, I'm performing, this is selected. I want to record again, this. It's obviously a lot easier than going shift utilities system and scrolling way down here to USB in and changing it. So yeah, this is a quick video. It's kind of in the weeds, but I just thought it was a really, really cool update to this setup that I was really already enjoying. And again, major shout out to Danjo2714 for letting me know that this is possible. That is awesome. I love when I get comments like that. Anyways, this template is available for download in the link in the description. Check it out if you have Loopy Pro. It works on iPad or iPhone even, so you could just use your iPhone with the SP. Yeah, and if you do use it, let me know how it goes for you. Hope you enjoy. This was kind of a quick video, but thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again in another week. Cheers, y'all.